In 1976, Gulfport, Mississippi was suddenly shattered by a horrific crime. Gerald Jordan, a Vietnam War veteran, caused the tragic death of Edwina Martyr, a mother and wife purely out of greed and desperation. This case not only shocked the community, but also spanned nearly half a century with 4 death sentences and relentless legal battles. What drove a man once considered kind to become a brutal killer? In this video today, we will trace the clues of Jordan's last meal, unveiling chilling details of the crime spree that shook the entire United States. Edwina Martyr, 34, is at the heart of this tragic story. She was the wife of Chuck Martyr, a bank manager at Gulf National Bank in Gulfport, Mississippi. Living in a cozy home with her husband and 2 young children, a 3-year-old and a 9-year-old boy, Edwina was known as a devoted mother who always put her family first. She had no connections to the criminal world, just an ordinary woman living a simple life. On January 12, 1976, Edwina was at home with her 3-year-old son when tragedy struck. She was abducted by Richard Jordan right in her own home, while her young child was still asleep. Just a few hours later, Edwina was taken to DeSoto National Forest, where she was brutally shot to death. Her death not only left indelible pain for her family, but also shocked the entire Gulfport community. An innocent woman with a future ahead of her had her life taken simply because of another's desperation. Gerald Jordan was born on May 25, 1946, in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, into a normal middle-class family. Growing up in the nearby town of Petal, Jordan, was remembered by neighbors as a friendly, sociable young man during his school years. However, his life began to take a different turn when he was young. As a teenager, Jordan was accused of check forgery, a minor offense, but one that led him to a life-changing choice, joining the U.S. Army to avoid prosecution. Jordan served in the Vietnam War, enduring 3 stressful tours. According to Abraham Bonowitz from Death Penalty Action, these years left deep psychological wounds that Jordan did not receive support to overcome. After being discharged, he married and had 3 children, but life was not easy. Jordan worked various jobs, from managing a fertilizer plant to working at a shipyard, but by 1976 he was unemployed and heavily in debt. Financial desperation combined with unresolved psychological trauma seemed to have pushed Jordan towards a cruel plan. But were these difficulties enough to explain his cold-blooded murder? How did a once well-liked person fall into such darkness? In early 1976, Richard Jordan, desperate due to debt, conceived a bold yet cruel plan to kidnap a bank manager's family member for ransom. He targeted Gulfport, Mississippi, where he believed he could find a wealthy target. On his way to Gulfport, Jordan stopped in Baton Rouge, Louisiana to exchange his 16-gauge shotgun for a .38 caliber pistol, the weapon that would be used in his crime. On January 12, 1976, Jordan executed his plan. From a public phone, he called Gulf National Bank, asking to speak with the person in charge of commercial loans. He was introduced to Chuck Martyr. Using the phone directory, Jordan looked up Martyr's home address and drove there. Posing as an electricity company employee needing to check a circuit breaker, Jordan easily tricked Edwina Martyr into opening the door. He abducted her, leaving her 3-year-old son asleep in the house, and forced her to drive to DeSoto National Forest. In the forest, Jordan took Edwina out of the car. According to his testimony, Edwina tried to run, and he fired a shot over her head with the intention of threatening her. However, the prosecutor argued that evidence showed Edwina was shot at close range while kneeling, indicating a deliberate and brutal act. After killing Edwina, Jordan showed no panic. He calmly went to watch the movie Death Wish at a nearby cinema, then called Chuck Martyr, pretending Edwina was still alive and demanding $50,000 in ransom. The next day, Jordan continued his ransom plan, but reduced the amount to $25,000 after suspecting Chuck Martyr was cooperating with the police. He instructed Martyr to make multiple complex turns to avoid being followed. However, at the money drop-off point near Interstate 10, Jordan was spotted by law enforcement. In an attempt to escape, he drove his car into a ditch, abandoned it, and tried to flee on foot, but was eventually captured. What made Jordan continue this audacious plan even after killing his victim? After Edwina's death, Gulfport police quickly began their investigation. Chuck Martyr, immediately after the first ransom call, informed the police, and they set up a tightly monitored money drop. On January 13th, at the money drop-off point near Interstate 10, FBI agents and Harrison County Sheriff's deputies set up an ambush. When Jordan appeared to collect the money, he noticed the police presence and tried to escape. A dramatic chase ensued, with Jordan driving his car into a ditch and continuing to run even after warning shots were fired. Just a few hours later, around 1 p.m., a Gulfport police officer spotted Jordan in a taxi. He was arrested without resistance, and police recovered almost the entire ransom amount. During interrogation, Jordan admitted to killing Edwina and led police to her body in DeSoto National Forest, along with a .38 caliber pistol. Forensic evidence, including blood traces and the body's position, confirmed Jordan's statement, but also raised controversy over whether Edwina truly tried to run or was shot while kneeling. Did Jordan think he could get away with this perfect crime? Or did desperation lead him to act recklessly? Jordan's first trial took place in July 1976 in Jackson County, Mississippi, after being moved from Harrison County to ensure a fair jury. Jordan was indicted for kidnapping and premeditated murder. The prosecutor, led by Albert Nicase, emphasized the brutality of the crime Jordan had carefully planned. It shot Edwina at close range and continued to demand ransom, even though the victim was dead. The defense called no witnesses, and Jordan refused to testify. After 4 hours of deliberation, the jury found Jordan guilty and sentenced him to death, an automatic sentence under Mississippi law at the time. However, this sentence was overturned when the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that automatic death sentences were unconstitutional. In 1977, Jordan was retried. The prosecutor once again emphasized Jordan's cruelty, while defense attorney Earl Denham argued that Jordan was a good person before something changed him. Jordan's parents and a prison chaplain testified about his character, but the jury still sentenced him to death. In the following years, Jordan successfully appealed 2 more death sentences in 1983 and 1986 based on issues with jury instructions and the right to present mitigating evidence. In 1991, he accepted a plea agreement for life imprisonment without parole in exchange for not appealing. However, Jordan later objected to this agreement, arguing that life imprisonment without parole was illegal at the time of the crime. The court agreed, leading to a new sentencing trial in 1998, where Jordan was once again sentenced to death. The Martyr family's reaction was not publicly recorded, but their pain certainly lingered. Were Jordan's continuous appeals an attempt to seek justice or merely a way to delay punishment? On June 25, 2025, at the Mississippi State Penitentiary, Richard Jordan, now 79 years old, faced execution by lethal injection, a mixture of midazolam vecuronium and potassium chloride. This was the first execution in Mississippi using this drug cocktail since 2012, after years of delays due to legal disputes over the injection drugs. No detailed information about Jordan's last meal or last words was publicly disclosed, but according to some unofficial sources, he ate daikon radish, medium rare beef, baked potato with butter, and sour cream salad, grilled garlic bread, key lime pie, and Coca-Cola. The execution proceeded without incident, and Jordan was pronounced dead at the end of the day. Witnesses, including representatives of the Martyr family, made no public comments, but this event marked the end of a legal journey spanning nearly 50 years. Jordan became the oldest and longest-serving death row inmate to be executed in Mississippi since John B. Nixon in 2005. Did this death bring closure to Edwina's family, or will the pain last forever? The Richard Jordan case is not just a story about a brutal crime, but also a reminder of the profound consequences of war poverty and the lack of psychological support. Jordan, a veteran with unhealed psychological wounds, chose a path of violence to resolve financial difficulties. But does society bear some responsibility for not providing the necessary support to prevent such tragedies? Edwina Martyr's family lost a wife and a mother, and the Gulfport community will never forget this loss. Meanwhile, the justice system faces difficult questions. Does the death penalty truly bring justice? Jordan's prolonged legal battles, though legitimate, have sparked controversy over whether death row inmates are exploiting the system to delay punishment. This case also highlights issues in the use of lethal injection, as states grapple with finding drug supplies. Ultimately, Richard Jordan's story leaves us with a lesson. Desperation can lead to unimaginable acts, and society needs to do more to support those struggling with psychological and economic hardships. What are your thoughts on Jordan's fate? Share your thoughts in the comments section.